Hey, it's Drybear. Today I want to talk about everything you need to know about the Endgame Atlas. I know a lot of people have explored this already, and there's also a ton of people that have just thoroughly explored their Atlas, but there's a lot of people out there that are just now getting to Endgame, and regardless, I want to make a resource for people that might join Path of Exile 2 in the future and are wondering how to navigate the Endgame Atlas. And we'll start at the very beginning, and then we'll work our way up all the way until the end. So the Endgame Atlas is your final activity. Currently in the game, you will do normal mode, Act 1, 2, 3, and then Cruel Mode, Act 1, 2, 3 again. The final intended version, if you're watching this in, end of 2025, 2026 and beyond, means that you are probably doing Act 1 through Act 6. That is the intended version of the game once it leaves early access, and they are working on the new acts now. Once you complete the campaign, you unlocked this End Game tab, which will look like this, and you can put this in your hideout. There's a map device here, which when you end Endgame, and I'm assuming this is going to be the case when you finally actually, when we have the campaign available, you will go to the Ziggurat Refuge, which is going to look like this, and it's going to be basically your basic setup. You probably will want to unlock your hideout and start using that instead. However, if you haven't purchased a hideout, you'll have to unlock the in-game hideouts, which only come from using the Atlas. So you will have to use the Ziggurat Refuge as your first initial Atlas interaction. So once you finish the full story and you're done with the campaign, it will plop you here in the Ziggurat Refuge, and you will have a map device that you can use. When you click on the map device, it will bring up your Atlas, which will initially look like this. It'll plop you, if it's not, there we go. It'll plop you right here, and you'll kind of start here at the Ziggurat Refuge, which is the start of it, and your Atlas will look like this. And then you'll just kind of navigate this like it's some kind of RTS game. You'll be able to move between these nodes, and there will be different icons and things that we can talk about to explain what's going on here. But this is going to be your end game process of going from place to place, navigating the Atlas. Now, in order to access this, you will need a Waystone. This is the maps. People will call this maps. You put it in the map device to generate a map, but the item that does it is called a Waystone, and they have tiers. So we can take this Waystone tier 1, and we can walk up here to the Atlas, or the map device, and we go up to something at the very beginning here at the startup here, and we put in a map in a blue node. So nodes have to be connected. You can see that some of these are green. That means that we already did this map. It's blue if we haven't done it yet, but it's accessible, and it's gray if we can't actually reach it. So unless your name is Elon Musk, you want to make sure that you connect to these nodes so that you can actually reach these. So I can't actually click on this until I complete this map, which will connect these nodes together, and you'll be able to access these to go any way you want. The Atlas itself is infinite. It will constantly expand forever. It'll keep going and going and going and going, and that is their plan, to have just an infinite Atlas that will just keep exploring over and over, and you can just kind of continue doing it. As it stands right now, your Atlas is shared across all of your characters within one season as well. So once you start the Atlas, you will have one Atlas for that season. I'm not sure if they're going to change this in the future, but they will, this is kind of how it functions. You'll share it, and because it's infinite, there's not going to be any major downsides other than having to locate some of the end game bosses. Now, if you don't initially have a Waystone, they should give you one right off the bat, but if you don't have one in your inventory, you can always get some from Doriani. So if you go to Doriani and you buy, he will sell very low tier maps that are easy to pick up, right? A range of the lower level ones that you want to pick up. So you can get one and make sure you have one, and then you can go to your map device, and we can go up here again to the top, and we can put this into any blue node that we have access to. And if we do this, we put this in and click traverse, it will activate the portal device, summon 6 portals that we can enter, and we have the ability to enter the map and go into it. This is just an end game instance that has a series of monsters in it. You will need to complete by killing all of the rare monsters in the map. When you go into your game, you'll see in the top right corner there are a certain number of monsters. When you get this number of monsters low, it will start showing you where the rares are with directional indicators on your minimap, and they'll also show up on your overlay map as well. So they'll be here. Once you clear all the rares, the map is complete, and you can leave if you want, or you can stick around and finish off other monsters if you'd like. But the big thing that it's kind of like a hot topic for people right now in Path of Exile 2 is the fact that these maps are limited on your entries. So since we came into this map once, you'll notice that instead of having 6 maps to enter, we now only have 5. And if I go in again, now we have 4. If I go back, I now have 4 maps to enter, and once the last portal is gone, you can't go in anymore. It's done. So you're very limited. They like having a very high penalty to this. I don't know how this is going to evolve over time. Some people like it, some people don't. The directors on the game really do like it. They like these maps being super punishing, so you have that limited resource that you go into. And also, currently, if you go into the game and you die, so if I were to die, I don't want to do it because I'll lose XP, but if you die in the map is done. It will be wiped. You'll lose all your portals. You will have to put a new thing into it. So you go to the map device and it'll show up as red, as failed, and you won't be able to, so like for example, this bugged out and I couldn't finish it, but it looks like this. It's a red node that says map failed on it. Now you can still go to these, and in some cases you can still like enter in like if it's a normal map that you failed, you can just try the map again. If it's a unique map, you're done. You can't do it again. You have to go find a new one that has that same purpose. So you want to make sure you're doing maps that are equivalent to your gear level, your skill level, your power level, so you're always doing the right quality so that you're not overreaching, and that's kind of where the gear grind comes from. It's encouraging you to get stronger, test your limits, and push things on. So as you get higher and higher maps, they will drop in higher levels. You can go from 1 all the way up to like 16, 15, it goes 15, and then you can increase this by adding modifiers to it to make it even higher and higher and higher and higher, which means you can keep making these maps harder. Additionally, the Waystones themselves actually have their own quality on them. So you can actually take, do we have a blank Waystone here? We can take a blank Waystone if I have one. There's one. We can grab a blank Waystone and we can actually craft. So this is a normal item. You do this normally with items anyways. You can take a transmutation, make it blue. You can take an Og, add a mod to it. Then you can take like a regal and make it yellow. You can take some exalts and add yellows to it. And all of these will be random modifiers, just like with a item that you would normally roll and craft and that sort of thing. You can then make these better and better. Now, the stats on these will vary wildly. Some of these will be very good. Some of these will be very bad. And some of them will be, better or worse for the build you're running. Some of these may be really bad for your build and you want to avoid them. And some of them might be really good for you depending on what it is you're trying to clear in general. So you're trying to get the ones that you want that line up for you, but also has the highest chance of dropping loot, giving you XP. The higher tier the map is, the higher the level of the monsters are, and generally you want to be doing monsters within +3 levels of your current character level, so you're keeping up with that process, getting maximum XP and also getting the best loot possible. Now, before we go into like some more specifics on what modifiers there are, what activities you'll see, the leagues and everything on the maps, I'll want to talk about a very important topic, which is the idea of map sustain or Waystone Sustain. What this means is that when you first start out doing maps, your inventory will look like this. You'll have like one map. It'll be a super low tier, and that's it. Your only option will be buying from Doriani. You don't have anything to pull from. There's no mass storage. So there is a very specific skill set, a strategy or set of strategies that you need to employ to make sure you're generating more maps than you're spending. There is a Waystone or map economy for your character and your end game progression, and if you use maps improperly or you don't plan properly, you can very easily fall into a map or Waystone recession where you just don't have enough maps to clear and you have to constantly keep buying these low tier ones. So what are some good tips for managing your map sustain, generating a good amount of maps, and also generating maps that are increasingly harder and harder so you can actually do good content for good loot? The first thing that I want to point you to is going to be right on the item itself, and that's the implicit stat on the Waystone, which is going to be Waystone drop chance. This will be a scaling modifier on the Waystone itself that will increase the likelihood that Waystones drop in the maps that you're doing. So generally you want to try and save your best ones for maps that have the best chance of dropping Waystones, and usually that means boss maps. So you want to pay attention to this. This number can be 0, it can be 350%. It all depends on the modifiers and the value and the rarity and the quality of this map that you're running right now. Now, in the current state of the game, the number one way to get lots of maps is by doing bosses. You want to save your maps that are the highest tier, the best quality, the best loot, and has the highest Waystone drop chance only for maps that have bosses, which is this icon right here. So see this cool little skull? This means that there is a boss on this map, and it will be one of the campaign bosses from the campaign, and they'll be adding more of these over time. Apologies for the flashbang, but I have a list here that you can screenshot if you like, but this is basically the list of bosses and the map that they show up on. Again, this list will continually get bigger and bigger as they add more campaign bosses to the game, but basically all the bosses you're used to seeing throughout the campaign are options to be bosses at the end of a map or in a map, and they will count as one of the rares that you need to complete the map as well. So if you were to run Mire, you would get Riona. If you were to run Mineshaft, you would get the Ruja Akarwi. If you wanted to run Forge, you would get Vastweld. If you wanted to get Channel, you would get Hask the Fallen, and all of these have comparatives for their like campaign version based on the act that they're in, so you can obviously just keep track of that. So if you want to screenshot this, you certainly can, but that is going to be the list of bosses that you have. So if we were to get Wetlands, for example, we would get, we know we would get Devour as our boss for the Wetlands, and that would be our boss for that. Bosses have an exceptionally high drop rate of items in general, higher quality of items, and they also have a very high drop rate of Waystones. If you're doing a yellow Waystone with 200 to 300% chance to drop a Waystone, you'll usually get 2 to 4 Waystones of equal or higher value than the Waystone you put in, which means that as long as you're saving your good Waystones for bosses with high drop chance, 1 Waystone on a boss map can generate, 2 to 4 Waystones, which means you go positive 1 to 3 Waystones with that. So if you're planning around that, that's super important. Which leads us to the next topic, which is going to be basic map traversal. This is something that I think a lot of new players get wrong or just have a misconception on in general, but I think there's a big difference between pushing your maps and traversing your map. So in general, because the Atlas has varying degrees of value, there's areas that have like special interactions with high, experience or hideouts or things like that, or bosses or some biomes you're trying to get to, or you're trying to locate the end game activities like the citadels. Sometimes you just want to get across the map quickly, and it's perfectly fine if you're running, if you're at a skill level of like tier 12 maps or tier 13 to just pop in some tier 1s and some tier 2s just to get across the map and actually unlock things or get to a new area if you like. So you can switch between, like if say you're at this state right now that we have in my inventory, you have 1 tier 2 map and that's it. You can use that tier 2 map to then just start getting over to some boss icons. So just locate some boss icons, navigate to them by doing low tier maps, get to the boss, and then you want to go over to Doriani and just get the highest map you could possibly get, juice it out, get it the highest quality you can, and then run that boss map. And then this level 5 boss map with enough quality should probably get you 2 to 3 tier 5, tier 6 maps that you can then use on the next boss, which will multiply and multiply and multiply, and they'll keep going higher in value as well. So a tier 5 might get you 2 tier 6s, and both those tier 6s might give you 4 tier 7s, and you just keep working that way up as you go along. But a lot of people end up getting this wrong, where they go across their map by using all their best maps to go to these blank nodes. So like a node like this that has no modifiers on it, no boss, no nothing, they put their best map in here, then their best map in here, then their best map in here, their best map here, and then they're here and they have no more maps left, and they're at a boss and they can't actually get any good maps out of this, which means they run out of maps and they are in a map recession. Next, let's talk about the Lost Towers. You will see these literally everywhere. So these Lost Towers are all over the place, and they kind of function like the towers in like Wuthering Waves or Genshin Impact or, Zelda. It basically is a way for you to reveal the Fog of War and modify the maps in the area. So all you have to do is navigate to these nodes. These function just like a normal map. So once you get here, you'll be able to put in a map into the Lost Tower. But once you complete the Lost Tower and this turns into a green node, you will basically get the tower's width of radius revealed to you. So what you could do, say this is you here on the Atlas right now, you could just navigate here and then you can go and just activate all of these Lost Towers, which would give you a huge reveal of the area around. Navigate to this tower, reveal, and then you can see what's inside of this biome and what you might want to do with that navigation. The second aspect of Lost Towers, which is super important, is the Precursor tablets. So as you start pushing more and more, you're going to start getting better and better Precursor tablets, which you can use to activate on the on a captured lost tower. So if we take some of these tablets, we can actually just take one of these, and if we go to the map device and we go over to one of these lost towers that we haven't put anything into, you'll notice that it says map completed, but if I click on it, I can actually put a precursor tablet in here. What these do is they will just randomly modify the maps in the radius of this lost tower. So when you put this in, whatever it says it does here, like 8 maps in range become irradiated, you can add in different endgame activities, you can basically just modify these maps. There's even a new precursor where you can add bosses to nodes that don't have bosses either, which gives you a great option for scaling that up. So you can actually just go here, and that kind of leads to a very important strategy for managing your maps, in that the areas that have many lost towers in one spot are more valuable, right? Because you see how right here there's 3 lost towers in range of each other? That means that these nodes, you can only use 1 precursor per lost tower. Once you use this, it's locked, you can't add any more. So if you've done an area that already has like been used with one of these, see how I click on this? We've already used a precursor on this. You can only do it once. You won't be able to do it again. So areas that have a bunch of lost towers together around a lot of nodes, these can be super valuable because you can stack a precursor on every single lost tower and apply a bunch of modifiers to all these maps, making them harder, but also making them more valuable. So now that we know that, let's talk about the modifiers that you can put on these maps and what they actually do. There are only 6 of them right now, and I do believe they're planning to add a lot more to the Atlas in general. 2 of them are very simple and very straightforward. And it's going to be one of the ones you get first on these, which is going to be irradiated. This is just a modifier that adds +1 to monster level on the map. It makes that map stronger, it makes that map harder, and it makes it, get better loot and give more XP. So when you put one of these in, and I add this to one of the towers, we can just waste one of these, I don't really care. We can just go here, if there's one that we haven't used yet, like this one, we can grab a precursor tablet that applies irradiated, put it in, and then look at the nodes in the area. If we add this, you notice that these all, like some of these gained the irradiated modifier. This means that if we run this map, whatever map we put in there, we'll have this modifier applied to it. So you notice how the monsters here are 66, now they're 67 because we have irradiated on it. So that's irradiated. The other one is going to be occurring naturally, which is going to be corrupted, which is this one here, which is the same exact thing. Area has +1 to monster level, but also has coalesced corruption, which means that if a bunch of monsters die in an area, they will merge together and form corrupted monsters. So you get more monsters and more encounters from this, but you can actually stack these together. You can have maps that are both irradiated and corrupted. So this tier 2 map turns into a much harder map just because of the modifiers that we have on it. The third modifier is the boss modifier, which we've already talked about. So this is this bot here. It just means that one of the campaign bosses is going to be on that map, so you can check it out. The final remaining 3 are all end game activities, or I guess it would be 4, right? So there's 7 modifiers that you can get here. Right, so there is Ritual, which looks like this. It is this ritual looking icon here. It is Delirium, it is Expedition, and it is Breach. What these mean is that these endgame activities will appear in any map that's run with this modifier here. They don't inherently add anything to the map by default. They're not gonna, add a level to all the monsters in the map, that sort of thing. It's kind of like the boss thing where just that on that map you're guaranteed to get a spawn of the boss. The same thing for Delirium, Ritual, Expedition, and Breach. So you'll be able to get those there. You can have all of these on one if you really wanted to scale all of those out. And these can all stack together. So you can actually just have a corrupted map that has an expedition on it and has a boss, and you can start stacking these together. The more value you get, the better. And to be honest, I could probably make a video that's separate on each one of these for strategies for Ritual, for Delirium, for Expedition, and Breach. They all have their own requirements, and they will all give you their own special currencies and special rewards and that sort of thing. And I do recommend just trying them. You will get a lot more value out of them if you have them in there. So you can find things like getting like catalysts, you can get splinters, artifacts, logbooks, you can get all kinds of things. You can also get your distilled guilt or distilled emotions, which allows you to imprint or annul or whatever you want to call it in this game. You can actually have a node from the passive tree applied without actually having to be in that area of the tree at all. You can actually just add it to your build without having any other requirements there, which is super nice, and you can get all of those from just doing those endgame activities. You'll also find special maps that have unique interactions or bonuses, so like things like the Untainted Paradise, which will give you no loot, but has a whole bunch of high XP mobs in it, which you can clear it out. I think eventually they're planning for there to be a rare NPC that spawns in these as well, that you can get super unique items from too. There's all kinds of unique things, and the first thing you'll want to do is probably go and clear one of the hideout options it just looks like a hideout icon, which looks like this. You actually need to clear one of these first if you don't own a hideout to unlock the hideout. So just run a map here, clear it, get it done, and then you can actually have a hideout unlocked for your account, and you can go there and put a map device in there and use that instead of the Ziggurat Refuge if you'd like. But these are one of the unique maps that you can get to clear this out and you can unlock. There's currently 4 hideout types in the game right now that you can unlock and use if you like. Lastly, let's finish with your ultimate goal for your character at the end of your journey, the final steps that you're trying to accomplish. And we'll start with a very basic overview of this and then kind of give you some notes on what you can do afterwards. So right after you spawn here, you will have this like little red skull icon on your map that will tell you where the burning monolith is. This is your final goal, your end game boss for the map system. So you will spawn here and you'll have to work your way over to the burning monolith, and you'll be able to, actually go to the burning monolith and enter. It'll show a monster level, but you don't have to put a map in here. You can actually just go to the burning monolith and enter into it, and it'll open up some of just default portals for you. And once you go inside, you will see where the end game boss lives. You can walk in, there's some lore right here if you want to click on this, and then you'll walk up here to a burning monolith gate that you won't be able to open. It'll just say, insert the 3 crisis fragments to gain access to the monolith. So you actually have to find the keys that go in here, and then you'll have to traverse your atlas in order to do so. So how do you find the keys? What are you looking for? Luckily, in the patch that went live yesterday, they added some cool ways to recognize where these are. So you're looking for the end game citadels. These are going to be the act bosses in a much harder version than the campaign that you normally have, and they added a beam on top of each individual kind. There's currently 3 of them. The orange beam is the copper citadel, which is going to be the Act 2 final boss. The red beam is going to be the iron citadel, which is going to be the Act 1 boss, and the blue beam is going to be the stone citadel, which is going to be the Act 3 final boss. And you want to clear these. Once you clear these, they will drop a special item for you that will allow you to put these items inside of this monolith and gain access to the final boss of the game, and you can clear him. But you're not actually done once you've done all the citadels and you unlock the monolith. There are actually uber and pinnacle versions of everything in the game. There's special breach and end game bosses. There's special ritual end game bosses. There's all kinds of delirium. There's a whole bunch of end game bosses that all are spawned in different ways, different activities you can farm. You can farm logbooks, splinters, fragments, and unlock things. Your core of your end game campaign is to unlock the citadels, complete them, get their crisis fragment, come back to the burning monolith, and enter, but you have other things that you can unlock after that once you've completed that endgame challenge. And the video is getting pretty long as it is, so I'm going to leave the video there. There's a bunch of other things to talk about, like the unique things that you can do in the map itself, and also how to unlock the ubers and the pinnacles of every area and what to do, and also guides on how to face the Arbiter of Ash and all the different bosses there, and then how to get the most out of breaches and how to prepare yourself, ritual placement. There's a whole bunch to discover and talk about when it comes to expeditions as well, how to properly set up expeditions, get the most loot out of them, how to get logbooks, how to clear logbooks and things like that. But I don't want to make this video too long. I just wanted to get a video out that people could use as a reference material for actually starting your end game process if that's something you're looking to do. So if there's other topics you'd like me to cover, give me a comment down below and we'll put it in a future video. If you found value in today's video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and don't forget to check out my other channels for other content and other stuff and other things.